Let's turn our attention overseas, though. We've seen North Korea testing a series of long-range missiles flying 1,500 kilometres before hitting targets over the ocean. The tests were described as successful and the new weapons as of strategic significance to protect against hostile forces. Joining us live for more on this is Dr. Malcolm Davis, a senior analyst at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Appreciate your time as always. Just how concerned should we be about these developments in North Korea?
Look, it does add to the instability in the region. Obviously, these missiles are nuclear capable, so you could put a nuclear warhead on it and strike targets in both South Korea and Japan from North Korea with these particular cruise missiles. So it does add a destabilizing factor to the region. And it also, I think, is a step along the road towards an eventual resumption of North Korean ballistic missile tests, which there was a moratorium on for at least 18 months. And now it potentially is that North Korea will break that moratorium. That would create a real headache for the Biden administration.
Yeah, when we look at what Joe Biden is dealing with, I mean, there's the North Korea situation, there's obviously Afghanistan, but these Iranian nuclear developments, is that actually a bigger threat than what we're seeing in places like North Korea in terms of, levels of concern?
Well, North Korea already has substantial nuclear forces. I think Iran is on the tip of acquiring its first nuclear-capable weapon. It's essentially withdrew from the requirements of the JCPOA primarily because the former Trump administration walked away from that agreement. And so Iran has had many months to break out of the limitations of that agreement. And it's now within a very close period of time to be able to have sufficient weapons-grade fissile material to have its first nuclear weapon. So that would also create a huge problem for the Biden administration, in particular after Afghanistan, where the perception is that Biden has basically walked away from the Middle East. And I know that countries like Israel and Saudi Arabia are very concerned about the Americans' attention and inattention on the Middle East. So an Iranian breakout with nuclear weapons and North Korean testing of more advanced nuclear weapons means that Biden has his hands full. It's not just Afghanistan.
And so knowing what we know about the Biden administration and his attitude to some of these problem areas on the world stage, what is the expectation as to how the president would respond?
Well, that's the key question. I mean, Biden seems to be very focused on internal and domestic challenges facing the US, infrastructure, COVID, healthcare, the economy, and so forth, and understandably. But the concern is that after Afghanistan, that Biden may be less willing to become involved in some of these other challenges, particularly in the Middle East. He's made it very clear that his focus is more on the Indo-Pacific, which is a good thing for Australia because that certainly is where the main strategic contest is emerging with China. But Biden cannot ignore events that are occurring either on the Korean Peninsula or with Iran. And he does need to be prepared to respond to challenges, particularly in terms of an Iranian breakout with nuclear weapons. And so it could be that the US under Biden has to, in effect, re-intervene into the Middle East to respond to an Iranian nuclear challenge that emerges in coming months. And of course, North Korea is always going to be a headache for the region and for the US.
Plenty of material there for the Quad Summit to examine next week when that gets underway. Dr. Malcolm Davis, appreciate your analysis as always. Thank you.
Thank you.